You're listening to the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans.
If you want to have guarantees, you have to buy a washing machine.
Fonte with a scooping header.
We don't lose a match, either we win or we learn. And today we learned.
Подача, Остин все-таки забил.
It's infield to Mane, 25 yards out. Lovely ball for Bella. Onside, 1-0. Boufal shot. Oh my word.
Unbelievable. He ran around the pitch like Bambi on ice. Really very, very embarrassing to watch.
And now, your host, Matt Markstone. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast and newsletter dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans, and available right here on southamptondelivery.com. My name is Matt Markstone. I am the host of the show, and no matter where you are, no matter how you may be listening, whether this is your first time or you've been here before, thanks for making the show part of your day. I hope that you enjoy it. And I hope that you enjoyed most of what you saw on Saturday when Saints took on Spurs in the fourth round of the FA Cup. And of course, it finished 1-1 at St. Mary's, which means a replay in just a week and a half at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and another trip to London for last week's guest, Carl Anker. But it wasn't the worst of matches. From the team selection to the play on the pitch, I think for the most part, everybody had a decent game, maybe save the VAR officials. But we'll get to that a little bit later. And if you were not watching the game on TV like I was, you were actually at the stadium, you may have actually heard, even if you didn't see, this week's guest, who is Dan from Saints Brass. And Dan is the guy that kind of, he's never on camera for Saints Brass because he's the guy shooting all of the video. He kind of puts it all together. And he's here this week to chat about what Saints Brass is, where it comes from, what role they play with the club, and then kind of what they do at each and every match day. So if you've ever been around the front of St. Mary's or around St. Mary's on a match day, you've probably heard them welcoming people in. And if you were interested in following along with what they're doing on social media and everything else and staying up to date with everything they have going on, they even made Match of the Day this week, as you may very well know or not know. I don't know. But you can follow them on social media at Saints Brass on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you can visit the website at saintsbrass.com, where you can find a free download of Oh When the Saints, performed by none other than Saints Brass, because having it there performed by somebody else would just be weird. So you can do that. You may hear a little bit of it if you pay attention throughout this episode. So anyway, special thanks to Dan for joining me. I'm really looking forward to sharing our conversation with you. And I should say that Dan and I spoke on Sunday evening, UK time, just before the news broke that Kobe Bryant, who was obviously a basketball player, not anybody associated with Saints, but he passed away tragically in a helicopter accident with one of his children. And I'm not a huge basketball fan, but Kobe Bryant, more probably than any other basketball player from my lifetime, kind of defined kind of what basketball was all about, and what sport was all about, and what competing was all about. And where I live in California means that the Lakers are basically the hometown team. They're as close as any team is. And so there are a lot of Laker fans in my family and things like that. One of the biggest ones was my grandma, who I lived with for a large portion of my life. And I can remember sitting with her most evenings, either watching the Dodgers or watching the Lakers, her cursing under her breath if they lost a playoff game or whatever. But, there's something about Kobe Bryant that, whether I like basketball or not, I will always kind of look at the way he approached the game, and it's a motivation. It was a way to go about your life, and I think that that's something we can take no matter whether we're basketball fans or whatever. It's just a reminder that life is short, and there are very few things that we can control, and maybe just a reminder to enjoy the things that we do have. And to make the most of things. And something that was tweeted by Billy Sharp earlier on Sunday, I have here in front of me, and I think it kind of speaks to what Kobe is. And it's a quote from Kobe, and it says, I made a choice when I was 13 that when people watch me play, I want them to leave the gym saying they had just seen a kid who gave everything he had, who who had natural abilities but played as if he was the 12th guy on the roster. If I could be remembered as a person who squeezed every ounce of juice out of this orange that he could, I'd be happy with that. And I think more than anything, I think that says a lot about who Kobe Bryant is, who he was, and what he brought to a lot of people. So not to bring the mood down or anything like that, but this is a moment I think that transcends sport boundaries and things like that. And whether some people may not care to hear about it, but that it's close to home. So there we go. So anyway, we'll get back to the Saints talk now, and we'll jump into my conversation with Dan from Saints Brass, who I just have to say I really enjoyed the conversation. There's so many things I wanted to ask him. Just I find musicians to be fascinating. People, for the most part, I enjoy music very much, and it was a pleasure to talk to him, and both on and off the record, and just have a really good time. So I hope you enjoyed the show. We'll talk to you on the other side, and once again, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. We'd like to welcome to the Southampton Delivery Podcast, Dan from Saints Brass. You can find him on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Saints Brass. You can go to their website at saintsbrass.com. And mostly you can just see them outside on match days out in front of St. Mary's. So Dan, welcome to the show, and thanks so much for giving me some time to talk today.
Hey, Matt. Thanks for having me. Really cool being here.
So, I mean, I have a lot of questions for you, and I see the band out front of the stadium and stuff on match days, kind of bringing it in no matter the weather or whatever. You guys seem to be out there kind of setting the tone and the mood and everything. And I have lots of questions about that, and then talk about the team and everything else. But can I just very quickly, for people that may not know, and I'm one of them, just a brief history of Saints Brass and kind of where the idea came from and how long it's been around?
Of course. Well, I mean, you touched on two major things there. One is the weather, which is that's the one thing that we've certainly learned how to deal with. Maybe we'll come back to that later on, but I'm telling you right now, if there's one thing that the band now know about, it's the weather. We played in sideways rain. We played in snow. We played in -2. We played when it's so hot, we're sweating all the time. So yeah, it's 13 people getting roasted is great fun. But anyway, so Saints Brass. I mean, basically, it's a collaboration between the club and local session musicians. So about 4 years ago, I think we've been doing this for 4 years now, which is, I still can't believe it. I got someone, a friend of mine from the club, gave me a call and said they were looking to get hold of a band to go out front on match days. And, I'm sure we'll talk about this later on, but I've been going to Saints since I was young, very young actually, probably about 30 odd years now, 35. Oh, I'm getting old. And I'm also a professional musician. So my name came up quite quickly when they wanted to put a band together, not least because I play a brass instrument. Mm-hmm. And I play saxophone, by the way. And so one of the things that I wanted to do was make sure we had we had a lot of conversations with them. And one of the things I wanted to do was make sure there was some sort of tradition, like a thread with what used to happen. Because when I first started going to the Dell in the 80s, there was always brass bands. There was like a New Orleans one when I first started going, okay, which was very much like what we do. And then there was also this great band called the Albion Brass Band, which was it was a proper brass band, and we're not in their league of proper brass bandness. Okay. And so the idea was to kind of develop just something for the fans really before the games. Those guys are all kind of traveling around the stadium, especially for the youngsters as well and families, and kind of have a bit of music going on. And I wanted to make sure we gave the traditional stuff a nod while still keeping a foot in the present as well. Yeah. So it gives us so the whole thing was getting some really, and also, and I can't stress this enough, one of the things I really wanted to do as well was to use as many Southampton musicians as possible, people associated with it. So you have that feeling that the whole thing has a communal vibe to it, and it's not just kind of buying in. And then, I mean, we play loads of tunes. We play stuff that's can only be found in Southampton. So tunes like Woolston Ferry, which is an ode to the old ferry that we used to go across the Itchen River, which is a chain ferry, which before they built the bridge was the only way you could get across. And it's one of these great songs of local folk songs. Okay. A tune called "Great to Be Back in Southampton," which is basically it's like another song about lots of places in Southampton. We cover artists who are associated with Southampton. So, we do some Craig David, for instance, and some Artful Dodger. And, it's kind of tenuous things like we do a bit of Coldplay because Will, the drummer from Coldplay, is from Southampton. Uh-huh. And then we just do other crazy stuff. Dance music, we do all sorts of things. Yeah. So, that was the vibe. And it was very much a collaborative thing. It still is, to be honest. It's nice to chat to the club and work it out, but we're independent of the club, so yeah.
Okay. I have a little bit of a few questions on that, but
go on.
You mentioned that you played saxophone, and I guess how far back do you go with music? When you mentioned you were also a professional musician, so like, did you start playing as a kid, or did you pick it up kind of later, or how long has music been a part of your life?
So I've never had a real job really. I've always been a musician, so gosh, that's a great question. I suppose I got into it seriously when about 14, 15, which for some kids is quite late, but until then I was convinced I was going to be a footballer, like all young kids are. Yeah. And then realized, actually I wasn't that good. So yeah. So I just really enjoyed it. I started playing professionally, as in taking money for gigs when I was about 16, 17, quite young, straight out of school. And I was lucky enough to grow up I grew up in Southampton and moved away for a bit, and I'm back again. And I was lucky enough to grow up on a music scene in the city, which did include people like Craig David and people like that. And the city was really buzzing around back then. And so I was lucky enough to work with these guys and see them. And so yeah, I often think with music, it's a lot of it. You have to work hard and be good, but quite often there's a lot of luck involved, and I suppose it's not dissimilar to football in some ways.
Yeah.
That's me.
There's a hard work and a talent element to it, but there's also you have to get discovered, you have to get some breaks and all that. I know really good musicians who play forever and never get discovered. I also know that there are guys that I play football with that are really, really good that just never played anywhere other than at the park, and that's just kind of how their life worked out. So I think it's awesome that you had the opportunity and you took it. You're doing it.
I'm very, very grateful that I do it. It's not, I never ever take it for granted. So, it's one of those things.
Yeah. When people talk to me, I try never to complain about my vacation time as a teacher. Like, it's one of those things I understand. Like, I'm very, very fortunate. So you won't hear me complaining very often, unless it's just to myself, and then hopefully nobody hears. But so can I ask why the saxophone? Why did you choose that, or did that kind of fall to you in some way, or how did it was?
Long story short, it was probably my parents who decided. I was younger then. I had the sax for a long time, but I really started playing properly when I got a bit, halfway through secondary school. Okay. So yeah, I wish I could tell a story about it. It's the fact I wanted to look cool and whatever, attract the other, attract girlfriends.
It's a sexy
it wasn't. Yeah. You find this stuff out. I just like the sound, really. So
that's perfect.
To be honest, I started off playing jazz anyway, which is, whilst I love it, probably has the opposite effect in most people. So, it was cool. It's great fun. It is a cool instrument as well. It's actually, I'll probably get shot by every sax player, but it's actually very easy to play. So yeah, go ahead and buy one, and you'll find it fairly straightforward.
All right. Yeah, I think I tried to play a trumpet one time. It didn't really work out.
That's difficult.
Yeah,
trumpet is difficult.
And then every kid in at school here at a certain age plays a recorder, which I don't even think is a real musical instrument.
Right, man. That's where I came from.
Yeah,
that's like Music Academy.
Yeah, we have
under 23s recorder.
We have two right over here. From both kids have one. So do they touch it?
Oh, right.
No. But anyway, and so as Saints Brass, the club kind of wanted to get this thing going, and your name came up. I guess, how did you come about finding other people to take part? You said you wanted it to be, people who had a connection to the club or at least a connection to Southampton. So did you find it difficult to get musicians together, or were people pretty eager to take part?
Well, to be honest, it was fairly straightforward because, I've been about the block musically, so I've done quite a lot of stuff in my career. And so I have lots of connections. And one of the things I do a lot of is support youth music and youth organizations and stuff like that. as much as I can. So I kind of had a mixture of like young up and coming people and like established people as well, and certainly helping younger professionals get their foot in the door. So when we first started up, the band was actually quite young, kind of musically speaking.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, no problems at all. And you know, as I said, most of them all had a reason to be there because they were either Southampton based or, you know, we've got quite a few fans in the band, so we're not unaware of the fact that we're playing for something, and which is actually quite useful for us because it means we'll go to the match afterwards.
Yeah.
So the gig's close by.
Yeah.
You know,
Makes it easy.
You're right. Yeah.
And I guess kind of moving that forward a little bit, you know, the club wanted this to happen, but what is I guess your kind of relationship with the club in terms of, you know, do they allow you obviously to be out there? Do they kind of support you in that way, or how does that work?
Yes, I mean the club have been amazing to us, and one of the things that me certainly, but I think all of us have been, we learned, I suppose is the only way of saying it, is how much goes on behind the scenes that you don't really know about, and also how, I mean the staff at the club are amazing people. I'm always blown away by how generous they are. They've always got time for you. From what they're doing. And I mean, if you imagine that the business must be one of the biggest businesses in the city, right? Mm-hmm. They work so hard, and I can't think of any other job where your entire career is not in your own hands. So they must spend, you know, the backroom staff must spend the whole time during those 90 minutes just. I mean, certainly the relegation threatened seasons we've had.
Yeah,
I can't think how stressful it must be for those guys. So anyway, I mean, to give you an idea, so I'm, you know, massively in awe of most of them. They're just wonderful people. But the thing I'm in terms of our relationship, well, we're not actually. I don't know. I mean, I suppose we've become kind of sanctioned. I don't really know how to do it, but it's a partnership.
Sure.
In the same way, I suppose, like I don't know, like a shirt partnership is or something like that. So we are, you know, we don't go and play at Bournemouth or West Ham.
Yeah.
You know, we're not going up the road and doing stuff, but we are independent. So you know, we're not so-called, you know, we're not the mouthpiece of the club, but at the same time, we feel a real responsibility to the club. And we're all Southampton people. I'm a massive Saints fan, so we don't want to be apart. So it's just a very nice relationship, and we get to. I mean, it's been so strong over the last couple of years. Well, for the last 4 years, but especially the last couple of years, they've been really great with us. And so, I mean, that's what we do.
Yeah, it's not. Well, I can say, like, I only have seen you via social media, but it always. Generally, the comments underneath are very positive. People enjoy the music you guys, the atmosphere you guys provide, and I think it's always, even though if it's too hot for you guys, it's probably not great. But people tend to enjoy it, I think, a little bit more when it is sunny and warm, and they can kind of feel like, you know, they can hang out outside.
Us too.
Rather than just trying to run inside and get out of the rain, you know.
Yeah, right. You're telling the right person, then.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned you're a massive Saints fan. You grew up in Southampton. So, I mean, you've been going to games for a long time. Did you have a season ticket as a kid, or I
was trying to work this out. I think the first season I went was like, it was either 83, 84, 84, 85.
Okay.
So I was born the same year we won the cup, so I missed that.
Okay.
And
you were there basically.
I missed the Kevin Keegan years, but I grew up. I mean, what I vividly remember, I grew up with the kind of Chris Nichol era. The flying forwards, you know, I saw Matt Letiz's debut and Alan Shearer and all those guys. And since then, it's kind of lived with me. And yeah, I mean, football's changed so much since I remember it first going.
Sure.
When I first started going to, so football, the reason you were a Saints fan was, I mean, football in the days before Sky, I suppose, the Premier League, was, you didn't really have that much of a choice. I mean, there was kids around us who would support Liverpool because they were winning everything, but no one ever took them seriously because why would you?
Right.
But but yeah, I mean, I went to a school called Cantel, which was comprehensive, and yeah, I mean, like everyone in the class is a Saints fan. Yeah. That's how it happens, and then you end up going. So I first went with a neighbour, and then I gradually kind of started going my own as I got a bit older. And now I go with my mum. I used to, go with my mum and my brother. My sister goes as well. And yeah, I mean, I did it all. I was in the noisy bits the whole time.
Yeah.
Back of the Milton, the Archers Road, and then when we moved to St Mary's, I got a season ticket in the Northern, so I'm there at the moment. And yeah, it's been fascinating. I mean, the other thing that I love about Saints is that it always has felt, bar maybe 1 or 2 seasons recently, it has always felt like a community club.
Okay. And
it's always felt like a club where when you turn up, people are there as much for each other. It's not just like, it doesn't feel to me like people just want to go and, I don't know, associate with themselves winning. It'd be lovely if we did.
Sure.
But yeah, it feels to me it's more than that. And that's something I've always really enjoyed about the club.
Yeah. Well, that kind of togetherness, I guess, it's nice to hear that you, I guess, have experienced that and that you feel that way, because, my relationship with the club is maybe different because I'm so far away. And so I live through kind of social media and things like that, and other people tell me sometimes the togetherness is not always there, and on social media especially. So it's nice to know that even through you said maybe not so much the last couple of years, but it's for the most part it's been that way for a long time. So that makes me happy, because that's
one of the things I really loved about the club was when we did have the problems with the end of the Rupert Lowe era and kind of disastrous experiments in the Championship with those 2 Dutch guys and stuff. It was still, whilst it wasn't nice at times, there was still people looking out for each other, and they really cared about the club. It wasn't caring about winning, it was caring about the club. People remember things like Andrew Sermon and why he left, because he left to keep the club going, right?
Yeah.
And it's stuff like that, and it makes a big difference. And certainly one of my favorite seasons was the kind of meteoric rise from like League One, where we were playing against teams who I'd only ever seen play in the cup.
Yeah.
And then the euphoria of getting to the Premier League, and then the next year we're like challenging, year after, whatever, for bonkers stuff, wasn't it? We got almost close to Champions League. Man, I'd never known that in my life as a supporter. Okay. That was the craziest time, and I enjoyed it so much because of everything else,
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
One last question on you and Saints Brass, and before we move on to talk about the cup, ironically enough. So typical match day for you and the rest of the people in Saints Brass, and I think you mentioned there's about 14 of you that do it. Is that
there's 13 in the group, which wasn't deliberate, by the way, but we get reminded of it every now and again.
Okay. All right. Well, so I mean, walk us through a typical match day for you and everybody else, and just just let us know what kind of you guys go through, because I think a lot of us, I get up, I make coffee, I turn the TV on, and I take notes. That's my day. So like, what's yours?
So we get to the ground 3 hours before kickoff generally, and we all kind of hang out together, make sure everyone's there. Then we go into the stadium to get ready, which generally means just making sure that our cases and stuff are out of the way, then layering up. It's a very important part of our life as Saints Brass. Honestly, we have the most boring discussions about how many thermals we need and those kind of things. And then we'll get the music out and get ready, make sure we're cool. We have this crazy game we play, which I can reveal to your listeners, which is basically it's like a sweepstakes, the wrong word. We've got a pot of how many tunes we play each match.
Okay.
So everyone has to put their scores down. So it's like, I think we average between 22 to 23 a match.
Okay.
So it might be some days, if it's colder, we actually play more because we're playing more, and despite being exhausted, you want to get through them to keep warm. Right. So you might do 27, puts the name down, and we have got like an ongoing one going, and we've actually got a band clicker. There's all these kind of sad things we do. Anyway, so that happens. Occasionally, there's something that might happen within the normal structure of the day. So we might be doing the last post, for instance, for Remembrance Day. So we'll have to take that into account. We'll have a little bit of a debrief, or briefing, sorry, not debrief, briefing with Terry, who's our wonderful chaperone at the ground. She runs the Matchday Entertainment. She's brilliant.
Okay.
And then we go outside and we go and play for 2 hours, basically.
Jeez.
Which, it's kind of hard work. Certainly, generally for gigs, we'll do maybe 2 45-minute sets, a bit like a game, right?
Yeah.
But for this band, we're just out for 2 hours playing, which is great fun. But again, because there's no resistance, we're all outside. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
There's often jokes about the first one back, we feel out of shape, feel like, it's like pre-season. so there are some of us who just can't cope. But by the middle of the season, we're all right, we're fit again. But so yeah, we do 2 hours. We move around the ground quite a bit.
Okay.
And try as much as possible to interact. I mean, if fans come over, we make sure we spend, because we're only there because of the fans.
Sure.
I have to, it's. And as a fan myself, if I felt we were doing something that didn't fit, I'd be really upset. So yeah. And then about 5-10 minutes before kickoff, we go back inside. We're not allowed to play around the box office because it's too loud. So we have to stop around that area. But that's cool because it means we stop somewhere near the Itchen North, and they're always up for it. So that's all cool. And then we go inside. I mean, we used to go inside the ground a little bit, but we've stopped doing that now. I think they've got so many things going on, and certainly I don't want to get fried by the flames. So
yeah, so just now you play outside. You welcome everybody in, and
yeah, it's great. It's great. Yeah,
and then you go watch the game.
Right.
What types of instruments are in the band? You play saxophone, I imagine.
Yeah, I play. So we got some saxophones, we got some saxes, we got some trumpets, some trombones. We've got this amazing thing called a sousaphone, which is like a tuba, but it curls round the person who wears it. Okay. That's properly heavy and hard work. So he's a bit of a legend. And then we got 4 drummers to get that kind of big carnival style sound. So yeah.
And then you mentioned the first match back, maybe after the off season.
Yeah.
You played today at the FA Cup match for the women.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Are you in the red zone? Or are you going to be okay by next week?
Do you know what? By now we're all cool because we've done so many. It's that thing of like getting match fit. But I'll tell you what, when we come back after the summer break, and we've been doing, because some of the guys in the band, including myself, we kind of have some nice kind of plush gigs, it's kind of cushy stuff. Some guys are on tour with major artists and stuff, and they come back, and yeah, so we've all been pampered, and then we come back and we're outside doing this. And trust me, you look around and everyone's like, "Can we just take, a couple more minutes between a tune?"
Yeah.
And you're like, "No, we got to keep playing."
Yeah,
so, yeah, it is funny. But
yeah. So now I know, how the players feel when we say, "Why'd you stop pressing for 2 minutes?"
Right. Why'd you stop pressing?
Yeah.
I'll remind them.
So, I mean, you guys played the FA Cup match against Spurs, and then you went inside. You went to your season ticket.
Yeah, well, no, not for the because the Northern was taken up by all the away fans. So I was actually in the opposite.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's right. Was there some contention with that? People were not happy with that, I heard.
Well, no, I expected it to happen actually because it's happened quite a lot before. There's been quite a few of them. It was surprising because I didn't really expect Spurs to bring so many, but it's happened a few times before. So it's not that contentious. It's just a bit irritating. That's it. But those are the rules, and when we go away, hopefully we'll get the chance to take up full allocations like that, and fill out another away stand. I mean, hopefully that's us. So I've got no problems. Away fans are great generally. It's always good to have lots of away fans. Means the stadium sounds great anyway, and it's just a shame. It's a shame it's in our seats, right? But,
yeah, for sure. So the match itself, I would say, not a bad one to watch, even though it was only a 1-1 draw. It felt like it could have been a lot more, and it felt like the game was exciting all the way through.
Yeah.
But I guess just to start with the lineup, did you have any reservations about how the manager set things out? Or, I mean, it was pretty strong. Other than Gunn, it would have been the Premier League lineup almost.
Well, right, and I mean, to be honest, it's great he's still playing 4 at the back as well, because I thought with the injuries we had, he might play wing backs or do 5 at the back thing again. But no, he went with the 4 at the back, which was cool. And the only thing I was slightly surprised about was Bednarek actually starting, because I think he had a bit of a knock, didn't he?
Yeah.
A couple of games. So, but yeah, great. And actually, to be honest, I was pleased to see Gunn getting another go. I mean, McCarthy for me is the number 1 at the moment, but I thought, that's exactly where if you want to help a keeper, you give him confidence, right? So put him in front of a good team and let them redeem themselves a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and it helps when we're actually playing defense in front of them too.
Well, that's true.
with 10 other guys instead of just 9
right.
and kind of giving up.
Right.
But that's a bad day. So we don't have to go there.
We don't talk about that,
Yeah, no, because that's what Sky and everybody else will talk about forever. So we don't have to mention it too much. Yeah. But I mean, overall, in the first half, I thought that Saints came out and were up for it, and for me, watching the team, it's so nice to see us come out and kind of impose ourselves on other teams, even a team like Spurs, who, like, maybe in my mind they're better than they are, and I'm elevating them a little bit, but they are top 4, top 6 contenders almost each and every year for the past few seasons. They have a lot of talent on that team, even if they don't have Kane up front right now, and to see us kind of go out and just say, nope, like, we're going to force you to play on the counter, which Mourinho, by the way, likes. So maybe we played into their hands a little bit because they did look dangerous. But I was really happy with how the team went out and attacked. And I don't know if you kind of saw that from your perspective or how you felt about it.
It was a very exciting game. I mean, it was to use all the cliches, it was kind of like a proper cup tie because both teams played good football. And I mean, in terms of Spurs, you know what? I don't know if this is like first of all, it's weird seeing Mourinho play like a false 9 thing after he kind of hates on places like Barcelona for doing it. But they have like some superb players. Like some of the players that have, I thought Lo Celso was cracking. Lucas is massively underrated. He's always in and about when there's goals. And Son must be. I mean, he's such a good player, and he really saw it yesterday. He's on. Really, really good player. But I thought Saints were great actually yesterday. I think the one thing I think has changed since that thing we don't talk about a few months ago is the desire to back each other up, especially with the press. But there seems to be much greater desire to win 50-50s or second ball. Like the amount of times like a player will go in for a tackle, kind of half get it, miss it, and then his mate is there to take the ball away. And that's something we were missing quite a lot at the beginning of the season. And so yesterday was great. I mean, they were swarming around them. So Saints played great. It was just a bit one of those days, right? One of those days at the office.
Yeah, especially for Danny Ings, who seems like all year everything he's touched has gone in, and yesterday it just would not happen. Which I
watched that header in slow motion. I thought it got in, and no, it hasn't.
I didn't ask you, since you weren't sitting in your normal seat, where were you? Yeah. Where were you at yesterday?
I was in the gods in the chapel. So there we are. Okay. I left it too late to get a ticket, so I was right up the back, but it was cool.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess it's not the worst thing ever. Still on the ground, and it was was the ground pretty full from what I saw?
It was actually. It was. There was it was pretty much sold out as far as I could tell. There's only a few seats and they weren't gone.
Good. I mean, in terms of people who maybe struggled a little bit more than I would have liked yesterday, maybe Kevin Danzo playing it right back. We haven't seen him play really at center back as of yet, but I guess that's obviously with the Cedric situation and him being injured. You knew somebody was going to have to come in and play right back, and I'd probably rather it be Danzo than Ward-Prowse, maybe, just because I want Ward-Prowse in the middle. But Danzo, I thought was always going to have a tough time, especially when you look at how Son's running at him all day, and that's not that fun.
No, and I think I agree with you. I think I don't like kind of writing off players because I'm not like I remember. All sorts of players we've had through, especially recently. People writing off like Mane or Pella or whoever.
Boufal even.
Boufal, right? Yeah, but the thing that I think what I'd say is here's me making comments on football like someone who knows football, but it's funny because one of the things that I always find is like music is very similar to football in that everyone has an opinion about music, even if they have no idea about music. And here I am being that guy about football, right? I'm going to have an opinion on football, even actually it's changed so much since I used to play it. It's probably all these transitions and stuff. But I'd say there was a few things that Danzo maybe found a bit challenging, and one of which that was I think learning experiences it's just the concentration at this level. Because there was a number of times where his position was wrong, his body shape was wrong. He was turning too late, or he hadn't picked up. So Son was running in behind him all the time.
Yeah.
And I think this is a concentration thing. I don't think it's ability. I think it's one of those things which you can coach. And Hasenhüttl's done it for a fair few of them. I mean, if you look at the positioning now, anyway, Ward-Prowse is the obvious example, but there are others like Bernardek, right, who was always kind of like the second centre back, who's now got that kind of vision thing down. Højbjerg's changed his game, and it's nice to see. Even Shane Long, I think, has changed his game under Hasenhüttl. They all have their same attributes, but so I think the lesson for Danzo is like useful, but I wouldn't write him off because of it. I don't know where he plays is the answer. I don't know enough about him. I'm not one of these guys who was like, yeah, we're signing Kevin Danzo. I'll put my hands up and say I'd never heard of Kevin Danzo. Right. It was exciting to sign it. It was exciting to sign a defender at the time. So I was like, we're signing a defender. That's great because we needed one. But yeah, I mean, I think he needs to learn about the speed of the Premier League. Yeah. And that was a Premier League game yesterday. And sometimes there was times when it's not, you switch off for a second and then you're behind Lucas, or you're behind Dele Alli, or you're behind Son.
And you're not catching him.
You either take him out and get a red card, give away a penalty, or you're not catching him. And then you're out of position, and then the centre back's got to come over, and then there's a hole. And that happened about 3 or 4 times in the first half.
Yeah.
Right.
I always feel really bad when I'm writing notes and I'm just like, this is the same player's name, the first word of every note. It's just like, and it's never good. And that's not, I don't enjoy that, because then it means that we're going to have to talk about it over and over. And then inevitably, if we go behind because of that, I'm going to tweet something awful, and then I'm going to feel guilty later. But that's just kind of the way it goes. And there is a line between like saying kind of what you're seeing and being critical when there's the need, and just, leveling abuse of people, which I don't agree with. But,
and guess what? I bet Danzo knows this as well. I mean, there's no doubt he understands this. So like, I find it always very unhelpful. I mean, it's the same, from a musician's point of view, it's always the same thing. If you're playing the wrong note, if you're out of tune, that.
Yeah.
So it's not helpful to be told it, right?
Right.
So I always think there's like, for me, I actually think for Danzo, he needs more games like this. Because unless he faces more Sons or Allies or whoever who are turning like that, turning him inside out, he won't learn.
Yeah.
But the issue we've had for many months is that it's mission critical in the defence.
Right.
So and it's tough. I mean, the Premier League's not an easy competition, right? And or the FA Cup, right? You're always up against tough teams. So anyway.
And I would say, looking at both teams, we each had a fullback that was not a fullback that was filling in. And I thought Tanganga struggled at points, but did, if I had to give, say who did better, Danzo or Tanganga, I'd probably say Tanganga just edged him out. And he came up big in a couple of moments where Danzo kind of went missing in a couple of moments. And that's the difference really between us going through and having to play the replay, which, I think Hasenhüttl said you could do without, and that got a lot of people upset, because it's not just some of these teams. The Tranmere would have killed for a replay, but last time I saw they were down 5-0 at halftime. So they would love the replay simply because it means more money and all that stuff for them, and they need that. But that's just the way it is. But I mean, anybody or any big moments in the first half for you that stood out as being kind of moments that kind of got you on your feet or worried you?
There was a few. I know I was actually really encouraged. I mean, I think apart from that second half blip against Wolves, who are a good side, and it was kind of, I write that off as a typical Saints moment. Apart from that, I've been really encouraged with the work ethic the team have, and considering how many games they've played over the last month or two, they're still their energy levels are crazy. One of the things that's changed significantly from since I first started watching football is how athletic the players are.
Yeah,
and just to see them still pressing like all the time, it's great. I think what's been pivotal as well has been the ability for both the centre two to be able to kind of get their heads up a bit more. So I mean, it's kind of cliche to say Ward-Prowse is having a good season, but he really is. He's really having a good season. And, but I mean, the other guys who's been amazing this year is Danny Ings, obviously. And that free kick where I watched it again on Match of the Day later on, and the way he takes it past the keeper is a genius bit of improvisation. So the ball comes in too quickly to him. Mm-hmm. So rather than try and nip it over the keeper with a header, he actually chests it past the keeper to beat it, and then does some mad acrobatic thing. If that had gone in, that was a killer piece of improvising.
Yeah.
It was just, and guess who's there to stop it, right? Your man, Tananga.
Yeah.
That was such a shame. That would have been a great goal. But,
and it was one of those things where we almost expect him to do it now because he's done it. He's scored so many goals this season. Like, get the ball to Danny Ings, he'll score goals, and just seemed like every time he got the ball in a position to do it, just either too much of a touch or not enough of a touch, and it was just like it wasn't happening. But it happens. We're all going to have days like that, and that's where the rest of the team has to do it. So
I thought Obafemi had a good game as well. I mean, I think again he's another example of someone who now he's played a few games. He understands his role a bit more. So it's been really useful to see how he's adapted, especially playing with Danny Ings. He understands now his role much better, and really, another good game. So
yeah. Well, there were, I guess, Long and Ings have seemed to have that partnership that have been working or has been working over the past couple of matches, and then I think. Obafemi's been able to watch that and see these are the types of things I need to do to make Danny Ings or make the team better, really. And it's not just go out and try to score goals all the time. And even though that's part of it, it's go out and do some stuff off the ball and try to win the headers and drop it off to people so Ings can get into space. And I think that it showed yesterday that for the most part they came off. There were a couple of times I think late on where he was maybe getting a little tired and the things started not to happen as much. But he had a brilliant back heel for Redmond to kind of let him run it at some people, which I thought was fantastic.
Yeah, right.
I did want to talk very, very briefly. Spurs did get the ball in the net early on after what I thought was, I thought we would been on top until that point, and Spurs looked dangerous on the counter because that's they have pace and that's how they like to play, or that's how at least that's how Mourinho likes to play, and our back four is not the paciest, and then having Danzo there instead of Cedric, that's a little bit lack of pace. But Lo Celso manages to put it in, but Son's offside. He interferes with the keeper. He actually gets a touch on it. It goes to VAR and it gets overturned, which I thought was right. We did have a couple of VAR decisions that maybe didn't go our way. People were pretty upset about that, but yeah.
I mean, for me, I was in front of that. That was never a goal. It hit Son, and even if it hadn't hit him, he was stood in front of Gunn. So he's in an offside position. I haven't got my mind made up about VAR yet. Okay. Which is a kind of very un-VAR thing to say, isn't it? It's either black or white, right? Yeah. But the linesman saw that so early. He knew he was about to give it, but he let it go through because that's the new directive.
Sure.
The guy's offside. He's either offside because he's in front of the goalkeeper, obscuring his view, or it hit him. It's not a goal. Why it had to go to VAR, I have no idea. These are the kind of things which, when they look at VAR, whenever they're going to look at it, just listen. Why would you have a linesman?
Yeah.
I mean, if obviously if they miss something, okay, that's slightly different. But the guy saw it. It hit Son.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand how that's useful for the game, because it slows everything down.
Right.
And that was.
Yeah, it's one of those where it's not a millimeter like decision. It's very clear that he was offside. It's very clearly got a touch. That just needs to put the flag up right away. Let's move on instead of having to go through it.
I think he probably would have done, but it's just confusion over this rule.
Yeah.
See, my issue with VAR is the issue with the rules, not VAR itself.
Yeah.
VAR is what it is. It's a robot, right? It's the rules that govern VAR. I don't know. It needs to be black and white, or they need to trust the officials. I don't quite get why. Anyway. Oh man, that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, for sure. Let's keep it.
Or maybe like months of podcasts right there.
Yeah. If there's anybody out there that wants to do that.
VAR, it's not like no one's ever spoken about VAR before. Maybe you should do that.
Yeah, it's actually one of my favorite things to just like hear how upset some people get talking about it. It's like I don't feel the need to bore everybody with it, but some people just get so upset as soon as you bring it up. It's like, well, now I really want to ask you about it just because I'm that kind of person. But
It's the thing about VAR. The irony of it is that actually it's created more confusion when it was meant to stop it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of meant to have solved a load of problems, and it's actually like created all sorts of kind of, I suppose, fundamental issues with the rules of football.
Sure.
The offside rule is just not fit for purpose at the moment. The way they're doing it, I think. I'm not saying the VAR is wrong. I'm saying the rule itself is just. It's a joke, right?
Yeah, it doesn't. They're not working together at all.
Right. So they need to rethink that. Anyway, as I said, that's another podcast.
Yeah. Armstrong has to come off injured. I think that's a big blow, because I think of all of the wide midfielders, of all of the kind of wide creative players we have, he offers the most protection to the fullback of anybody, especially playing in front of Danzo in this instance. He's good. We were gonna miss that a little bit.
He's a goal threat as well.
Yeah. He's been so good lately.
Man.
The goalie scored midweek. Brilliant. I had no idea where that ball was going when he let loose, and it somehow managed, I think, almost hit the side netting on that side. It was just wicked. I thought it was awesome. So that made me cheer. It was mid-class when it happened, and I cheered. I don't care. The kids understood what was happening. It was fine.
Right.
But going in the second half, I mean, 0-0, I thought it was pretty even. But I guess Spurs goal, where it came from, that's where you see kind of one of those things where it's all of a sudden the press doesn't break down. You see everybody, like you said earlier, everybody trying to back up and bring him down. And I think at that point, people had yellow cards, people couldn't do certain things. And you would have just wanted to, just dive in and bring him down and take the yellow in your own half or in their half, but didn't happen. Lo Celso did brilliantly. You brought him up earlier, and then it goes to Lamela and then Son, and he kind of slots it home. But there's the foul, or potential foul on Danzo there, and I think this goes back to what we were talking about earlier: is Danzo in the wrong spot? Is he already falling down? Does Dele Alli push him down? Like, all of these things kind of come up in my head because I don't particularly like Dele Alli, but I don't know, what was your kind of in match kind of reaction to it?
Well, I mean, in the game, I was convinced it was a foul, but I don't know. I mean, my instinct was the same as yours when they all started missing honestly, I think someone should have just stood up and done the not professional foul, but that whole thing where you obstruct. They could have just stood up and it wouldn't have been a yellow card.
Yeah.
I think they were trying to be. Sometimes, I think that would have been me, partly because I'm slow and useless. I would have just stood up and the guy would have run into me.
Yeah.
And you'd probably both fall over and get told off, right? But nothing more. And the Celso did so well because of the fact that he'd drawn half the team over. But I don't know. I saw the replay. I think it's difficult to tell. I don't really know. For me, it was probably a foul. That said, the finish from Son was cracking. I know some people said that Gunn didn't get down quickly enough and all that kind of thing, but honestly, the thing about Son that impresses me is his accuracy. And his coolness. He seems to be one of these clinical finishers, one of these guys who can just put the ball where he wants to. He doesn't put it through the laces. He just places it every time. And you knew if you give him that sort of space in front of a goal, he's going to hit a corner.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, sometimes you just have to say it was a good finish, right?
Yeah.
Which it was, but just a little bit irritating. If they'd given the foul against Danzo, I wouldn't have thought we were lucky. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, and you also, because if Danzo is in the right position and doesn't get fouled, then
I mean, one of the things that does irritate me about this is like, why wait for VAR if you think it's a foul?
Mm-hmm.
This I don't understand that. So if it's a foul anywhere else on the pitch, you'd probably give it as the referee. Mm-hmm. So why wait for VAR if you think it's a foul? That's your decision. And ultimately, if the VAR thing was happening, he might have had to have a look at it anyway and made the decision anyway. So I'll say to the ref, trust your instincts.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
VAR is there to correct, right? It's not there to act as another referee.
Yeah, and I think sometimes depending on the referee, depending on how experienced they are and who the VAR official is, that plays into it a little bit too,
Yeah, I'm sure.
But yeah, it just, I don't know, because if Danzo doesn't get fouled and he's in the right position, he cuts down on Son's angle, and Gunn doesn't have to protect as much of the goal, and then and then the likelihood of that shot going in, it's still Son's still gonna have a decent chance because he's Son, and he's gonna try to fashion that. That's what he's there to do. But the likelihood, I guess the XG on that goes way down if there's a defender standing in front of him. Like that's how it works. But at that point, I was quite pleased with how the team responded, because they didn't just lay down. They didn't stop going at it. The substitutions we made, the eventual kind of formation shift and everything else. I was really, really happy with how Hassan Hudl had the team going about it. And I think I tweeted that there's no way you could deny that we weren't having a real go at this game and trying to get back into it.
Sure. I agree. And it was nice to watch, actually. It's nice to see exciting football. I was to be honest, I was especially impressed by Redmond yesterday.
Okay.
I thought he was really, really positive. And certainly once he'd been given a bit more freedom on the right hand side, he was a real threat. And unlucky to kind of, he was the guy who put it on Danny Ings' head when for that chance that he missed. It's one of those ones where 99 times out of 100 Danny Ings buries that, right?
Yeah.
Just unfortunate, but yeah. I thought Redmond was it's nice to see positivity in a Saints wide person. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things that I love watching Redmond when he's full of confidence, and he hasn't quite hit that this year. And whereas last season,
but it's coming, isn't it?
Yeah,
it feels like it's coming, right?
It's coming on the past couple of matches, and he looked up for it, man. It was like you said, it was wonderful to watch. And then Boufal finally gets a goal. I think it's been 2 years or so. I think the last time he scored for us was against Spurs, and to that move, that they could have potentially argued for a foul, but I don't think there was anything there. Maybe that's because I'm a Saints fan or whatever, but we won the ball back. Ings gets it. I think a good ball through from Højbjerg to Ings, and then
that's a nice ball there.
And the pullback to Boufal, who I forget who was on the pitch right in front of him, who almost looked like they were going to go for it, and maybe it was Adams, and then Boufal kind of runs onto it and just brilliant. And at that point, it was like, we deserve that. I think 100%. We had to get at least a replay.
Nice goal. And funnily enough, the last time I sat in the chapel was that League Cup match against Sunderland, where Boufal scored that incredible goal where he took it down and out of nowhere and curled it into the top corner. That was one of the worst matches I'd ever seen. And Boufal kind of just put this thing in. I was sat with my mum and we were like freezing cold, and I was just like, I'm not enjoying this experience. And then
there's that.
And then he did that. So Boufal, he's one of those players, isn't he? I mean, we've always had them at Saints. We've always had them. And again, you can get cross about things, whatever. But they produce the goods every now and again, and they can be infuriating. But I mean, I'm a complete romantic about football. I love the cup. The cup is the one for me, man, because if we're ever lucky enough to get back into Europe, great. But for me, if we can win some silverware or something like that, that's just wonderful. And I love the idea that you can. It's a great leveler. And I know these are all cliches, but it's true. And that one moment, there we are. It gives us hope again to keep going. And who knows? Who knows where it goes next, right?
Yeah. And
hopefully it gives the players confidence as well, because I think when you're 1-0 down against a team full of amazing internationals, and you can bring it back. You can bring it back to them and win, draw. It felt great.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, it's you look at both teams yesterday. You realize both managers have really kind of gone for it, and to play the match all the way through like that in the manner that we went about it. I think the draw is a fair result. The fact that we have a replay maybe is not the best of timing or best timing for the team, but it's probably what's deserved. And I think if we get another match like that, I don't think anybody will complain, because it was fun to watch.
Something that I felt that should be what's the word I'm looking for, commended is how well the Hassan Hudl manages. How much better he's become in game management. Definitely, that's a phrase, but like the whole idea, like he's been much better at spotting stuff, and certainly the way in which he uses substitutions has been really interesting. And I think think quite often it gets overlooked, like the consistency of those kind of things. And yeah, it's been good recently.
Yeah, especially he was under a lot of criticism earlier this season for the way things were going, for both substitutions that were too late and the way the team was set up to start. And I think he got it all. I mean, when I saw the formation change yesterday, I thought I thought that this is it. Like he's putting on all the attackers and we're just and to see that, I thought it was great. I mean, obviously we do get to move on. The replay will be in a couple of weeks. And I think, like I said, I think if Saints go out and play that match the way they did yesterday, the results will take care of themselves. Even if you don't win every one, like that's it. But,
right. And you know what? For me, listen, I'm not stupid. Saints ain't going to win the league this year. I've already. So my kids have asked me when they can get a dog, and I said if Saints win the league, they can have 2 each.
Smart.
So right. By the way, we got a cat. That's why. So I'm not a dog hater. I just we need solutions right now. But for me, I think what I want is to know that they're giving it a real go. That they try and play. I mean, all these things sound like football cliches. They try and play the right way. They're trying to be exciting, attacking. This is why my favourite players are always the ones who have that kind of Saints commitment. They're not always the best players. They're not always the ones that, I mean, apart from Matt, that is who's obviously the god. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I remember fondly some of the players who, I mean, like, Saints fans love Franz Finale, not because of the goal he scored, but because of the commitment he showed, because of he would never give up, and there's others as well. I mean, throughout the years, and I think this team is beginning to understand that's what's needed, is that kind of attitude. I suppose it's a culture thing, right?
Yeah.
And if they take that into any game, I don't mind. I think, and I also think, and this is where I'm going to totally jinxing them, but I think we'll be okay if we do that, because I think if you go into every game thinking we'll give it a go, it's better than kind of saying, oh, how do we manage the game? I just think those kind of things they're nonsense. You need to be positive. You need to believe in yourselves. You need to go for it. And sometimes you're going to get beaten by a better side, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes you might fluke a win, which is what I'm hoping will happen next Saturday. Obviously, like every other Saints player, Saints fan. But
all of my Arsenal friends are really hoping we can do it, because they don't want Liverpool to go undefeated. And it's like, I would love to have them owe me something. That would be great.
I don't think any sane person wants that. So,
yeah. Well, luckily I can just turn Twitter off. I don't have to hear about it a lot. But you guys in England are probably there's no avoiding it.
But the horrible thing for me is I grew up in that era with the that kind of Liverpool team who won everything, and so I did have to put up with these kids who couldn't even spell Liverpool, saying, "Oh yeah, Liverpool better team than Southampton." I'm just like, yeah, I know that, but why do you care?
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, right. Good for you, right? Red's a different color to blue, right? Good for you. Right?
Yeah. I read part of the part of the way through the mixer, and it's there are parts about the Liverpool team, and it's all come back to me because it's one of those things that I grew up in, and football was not a big part of my life. But you heard about the bigger things, and I knew who Liverpool were, I knew who Manchester United were. Had no idea Southampton was a place or a city or had a football team or anything. And then now we're here, so that's right. It is what it is. So we have a couple of questions, and some of them revolve around selection. So we'll just go there first. So to Instagram, Kevin Millard, who's at Millard505, and Rob Maddox, both have been on the show. Kevin is one of the patrons of the show, and he gets priority for having his questions answered. But both of them ask, if Armstrong is out for 1 or 2 games, who should start? Should it be Janebo or Boufal to come in and replace him? So if you could pick, would it be either one of those guys, or would you go with a slightly different formation, or what would you do? I'm
gonna do that thing and just like totally dodge the question and say I hope Armstrong isn't out for 1 or 2 games. I don't know. I don't know what the nature of the injury is. If it is muscular, then we are in trouble, because I do think he's been a really good link man. But I'm hoping that he took a knock and they're just being careful is what I'm hoping. I think again, sorry to be so vanilla about this. I think Djenepo and Boufal offer different things. Boufal sits a bit deeper and comes forward. Djenepo's on the edge. And they're not Armstrong. It's like comparing chalk and cheese, right? So, I don't know. I do think it's a blow if we lose Armstrong. He's been playing great at the moment. So that's kind of my view. Sorry. Yeah.
No, you're fine. I do think that either one of those guys, given the role Armstrong has played right now, will be less. The team will look less good with those guys out there from the start. I think both of those guys coming on.
Very different. It will be very different. Phil.
I think that's a better way.
The high energy thing is an Armstrong thing. Yeah. So yeah.
And I just think that some of the defensive cover that we would need, especially if we're going to be without Cedric for a couple of matches, I think that could be a real area where we're going to need to be
I agree.
Real strong. So that would be my only thing. I'd probably start Boufal though if I just had to pick between the two, simply because I think Djenepo coming on. There's a lot going on when he's running at people, and he doesn't seem to quite kind of, I don't know. He doesn't have any fear, which is great, but he also sometimes gets himself stuck too far forward. I mean, when he was playing at left wing back there for a couple of matches, he was constantly out of position, and Vestergaard looked terrible at that point. And I think part of it was the lack of cover and stuff like that. But that would be my only hesitation, and probably why I would go for Boufal. But like you said, I hope he's not out for very long. James Willis, who's at James Willis 86 from Twitter, says, can we crowdfund to buy Moose and Djenepo some shin pads that actually stay in the socks? Like, would you guys be up for putting out a bucket when you guys are playing?
Listen, this is a message to Moose and Djenepo. Moose, if you want some money for some shin pads, just let us know. We can even get some gaffer tape or something for you as well. That was very funny. The best bit was I don't know if you spotted it on the telly. James Ward-Prowse picked them up once for him. And he picked him up like a dad. He kind of, you could see him going over to him and going, if this happens again, you're in big trouble. You could see him pick up his shin pad. It's just funny.
They're supposed to be taped down. They're supposed to be taped down. Like, tape them down there.
I mean, whatever. I mean, come on, dude. Get this sorted. This is like an easy thing to sort, right?
Yeah.
There are more difficult challenges in the world of football than sorting out your shin pads, right?
Yeah, and it's not like he's wearing his socks like Jack Grealish, thank goodness.
Right.
But anyway, we have one from Saints Food Fighter, who's also on Twitter. If you had to pick a Saints player of the year so far, who would it be and why? He says he's got a few candidates: Prowsey, Ings, Jack would all be his top contenders. All have made comeback and progressed rapidly under King Ralph. So if you had to pick somebody, who would it be right now?
Oh man, it's a no-brainer. There's a guy who scored 2 goals at Fratton Park. It's Danny Ings. Yeah. That's it. And who celebrated in front, and he wins. He wins on all levels, but that was the kind of icing on the cake. But I must say, this year is great to have a lot of good, positive competition. And I mean, I think Bernardoic's been massively underrated as well. I think he's had a good season as well.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's a nice problem to have. Shane Long, when he's been on the pitch, has played well.
Mm-hmm.
He's not scored as much as he could have done, but he's been a nuisance.
I think. I think one of the things about this season is it's been so much more of a team thing. I think Redmond won Player of the Year a couple of seasons ago, and there was no contest because there was nobody else. And
right.
And I'm glad to see that we have so many players, and the team itself is just kind of raised its level, that all of a sudden we have a lot of guys like that are being put in positions to succeed and be successful. And I think that's a lot to say about Ralph and the whole team as a whole.
Right. I must say, we were lucky enough to meet Ralph, and I've met him a couple of times. And one of the things that really strikes me about him is he's not really interested in the ego. He doesn't really care about this whole, he doesn't seem to be a person who's particularly, impressed by or flattered by fame or anything like that. He wants to find out about you, right? And he's really interested in everyone. I heard a story that when he first got to the club, the first thing he did is he went around to all the backroom staff and met them all and learned their names, right? And this includes everyone, from the people at the box office to the guys who serve the dinners, right?
Yeah.
And that's, to me, is that someone who knows that everyone working together makes a big difference. It's not like superstar stuff. And one of the things that I find a bit unsettling is how we're obsessed with like superstar footballers nowadays. So, it's like you have a name and you have a team rather than a team.
Yeah.
Because the thing is with just one person, that one person playing by themselves, they need the rest of them there, right? And I think Hassan Hussel's really kind of instilled that in them a little bit, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We got a question from somebody we don't normally get a question from, so I'm very happy about this, but they ask, how handsome is Carl Anker?
Right. Well, that's a good question. How handsome is Carl Anker? I mean, if that was Carl Anker asking that question, that would be a really worrying question to be asking. That's the only point I'd make. You know, narcissism isn't a good look. But I must say, you know, having hung out with Carl Anker a couple of times, Carl Anker is, you know, he is, and I'm just going to say that he's got a new haircut. So yeah. I don't think it'd be unfair to compare Carl Anker to Carl Anker. That's all those kind of things. Next time I see him, I'll make sure we have a chat about maybe he's feeling bad. I don't know. Maybe I've got the wrong end of the stick. Maybe he needs some love. Carl, you're a good looking guy.
Yeah, no, I think I watched the Instagram story. I think it's good. I think it's fine.
I mean, I'll go as far as saying he's the best looking The Athletic reporter for Southampton. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
Absolutely. Yeah. Turtleneck or not, he's there.
Right.
So anyway, Dan, I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome, man.
I've enjoyed this so much and learning about you and Saints Brass and all of that stuff and just talking about the game. It's been wonderful to be able to do this, and I hope you have enjoyed it.
Very much. Thank you.
Yeah. If people want to get in touch with you, they can do that at Saints Brass across all the social media platforms or at saintsbrass.com. But yeah, man, I just want to say thanks again. And hopefully we'll do this again at some point in the future.
You're welcome. And can I just say a big thank you to you, Matt, and also to all the fans who've been just amazing to us over the last few years. Thank you so much for all the support. We never thought we'd be here after 2 games of that in 4 years. So thanks to the fans. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. If you want to see them, I think I don't know when our next home match is because I'm that far in the. And I think, do you have your schedule up? When are you guys going to be out there again?
We'll be out there. The next home game's not for a bit. It's against Burnley, I think, on the 15th of February. So we'll be out there. It's a early kickoff, I think. I think it's at 12:30. So we'll be out there from about 10:30, 11 onwards, and hopefully it'll be nice weather. No thermals. That's the only thing I care about.
4:30 a.m. kickoff for me. I'm just looking at it now. That's all right. I got to get mentally prepared
for
that one.
Yeah.
It'll be rough. But anyway, well, thank you so much, Dan. And I look forward to talking to you again. And I appreciate it.
Amazing. Thanks, Matt.
That does it for this week's episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed it. Special thanks this week goes out to my guest, Dan from Saints Brass. You can find him on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And not just him, but the whole crew at Saints Brass on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can also get more from them by heading over to saintsbrass.com. That's where I got the song you're listening to right now. You too can be the owner of this song or the possessor of the MP3 of this song. And we'll say owner because this is Saints Brass playing to win the Saints. And just listen to that. Can't argue with that. So make sure to give them a round of applause. If you see a bucket out in front of them, just drop a coin in it. That way we can get Musa Janepo some shin pads that stay put. The show would not be possible without the partners of the show. Matt Beeling, who runs the We Are Southampton page on Instagram, does the logo for the show, and the Southampton page on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. They are the official partner of the show, and they will keep you up to date with everything going on, both in-game and midweek. That's the spot to go to stay up to date with all of your Southampton FC news and needs. If you want to follow this show on social media, you can do that. We're at SFCDELL_IVERY on Twitter and Instagram. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/SFC Delivery. You can go to the website, southamptondelivery.com, and there you can find links to subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Aghast, Google Play, TuneIn Radio, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. You can also just search for the show wherever it is you already listen and click subscribe. that will work as well. If you're really enjoying the show and would like to further support it, you can leave a review on iTunes, or you can head on over to patreon.com/SFC Delivery, and there you can sign up to be a patron of the show. You get access to a private members-only chat, priority for having your questions answered on the show each and every week, and $5 a month patrons get an extra podcast episode every month. So lots of stuff coming if you enjoy it, and if not, just share it with a friend. I really do appreciate that. Most weeks, all music for the show comes courtesy of the Free Music Archive at freemusicarchive.org. The intro song is always Epic Song by Boxcat Games, and the end of show credits that you normally listen to is Aim is True by Poddington Bear. But this week, as I mentioned earlier, this is Oh When the Saints by Saints Brass. Special thanks to them for doing the recording, and to Dan for coming on the show. Look forward to having him back on in the future. So I think that about does it for this week. We will be back next week, of course, after our trip to Anfield. And if you're a subscriber to the newsletter, I will talk to you on Friday. So thanks for listening. And until next time, remember that together we march on. Hold on, I'm going to yell at my kids. Apparently it's breakfast time.